Little pruning tutorial for pawpaws. This is a beautiful pawpaw with fruit buds on it. It's bore for several years, and here's how we prune them. So hard cut. No, I'm just kidding. That was super painful. I had to make a joke out of it. There are a very small number of things that would make me cut down half of my pawpaw orchard. And it's the fact that my parents are going to be building a house right here. And just because of town regulations and whatnots, the road has to come, the driveway has to come through here. And so I need to remove at least 5 of these trees or so. So I've still got plenty more, but it's sad. But instead of trying to transplant this huge thing that's got fruit buds and all kinds of stuff, I'm gonna try to work with this kind of energy. Pawpaws are very good at propagating themselves by root suckers. On this one, I'll probably try to actually just cut. I don't know if I have to remove this one. Well, anyway, if there are root suckers that I can leave, I will. But I fully expect and hope that the regrowth and subsequent, return to production and health of that tree will be way faster this way rather than trying to transplant the whole tree. And I'll try to transplant one tree just to make sure that that's the case. Also, it's a lot easier to just work with a root ball. But anyway, that's what's going on today. Pretty sad. After 8 years in the ground, gonna have to hit the reset button on a quarter of my pawpaws. So that's a bummer, but absolutely worth it. Also a pretty good chance to see what the root systems really look like. Just broke this 1-2 here, so pretty decent. I've dug the holes to about this depth, so I'm gonna cut them off like that. But you can see a couple interesting things. This is how the root suckers form. Guess that's not that interesting. But one thing that I was sort of surprised by is that there really wasn't that much of a taproot. In fact, there was absolutely no taproot at all. I gotta get this guy. Got my dirt shears here. No taproot really at all. Very horizontal root structure. So a couple thoughts. One, I'm planting this pawpaw right next to some sumac, and they have a similar thicket forming habit. And sumac will naturally tend to be pretty evenly spaced, fairly large trunks, sometimes 6-8 inch diameter if they're left undisturbed for a while. When they're first disturbed or when they establish, they come up really tight. But they're basically spreading of a habit. They run, and they have a similar, in some sense, root system or lifestyle to the pawpaws, which form these thickets in the natural context. And in orchard context, you have to keep mowing all those suckers that come up and keep the one tree where you want it. Or you can go more natural and have it become its own little thicket, but the fruit production will go down over time. And it's odd because when you grow a pawpaw for the first year, 2, or even 3, and from my experience as a nursery grower, they absolutely do have a taproot and sometimes fork once, but rarely much more than that. Just one taproot goes straight down. And then as they mature here, they take a much more horizontal, there's no hint of a taproot approach. So that's kind of odd. And maybe not what I was expecting, maybe not what most people would have expected. The one confounding variable here is that these trees were grown in pots and then transplanted. So that could have truncated the taproot, and maybe it just didn't reinitiate a taproot at all. But the tree was growing healthfully, bearing quite nice. And it kind of makes sense that they would eventually go with the horizontal root system, as if they're a floodplain tree, a taproot would be below the water table. It's not that great of an idea anyway. So my thinking is maybe just the taproot is an exploratory phase when, juvenile plants are being established, germinating, and then in juvenile stage, and then once they mature, they switch to horizontal. So very dynamic root system, it seems. And I'd like to hear other people's thoughts on that. I don't know if anyone has had the very unfortunate and odd experience of digging up a large tree, pawpaw, that may have been direct sown, and maybe that does retain a taproot. I don't know. But anyway, not what I was expecting. I pre-dug all these holes way too deep, so I'm going to have to fill them back in. But that's fine. Nice loose soil. And yeah, at least we'll see how they fare in the black dirt. I think they'll do pretty well. We'll probably check back in the summer and see whether they survive and what the regrowth is like.